She's apparently made it to the rehearsals tonight. The troubled musician Amy Winehouse is due to perform at the nationwide Mercury Prize, but still not certain whether she'll make it on stage after a string of cancelled performances. Ironically, her album, Back to Black, could well win the coveted award. Yet it's the same album her in-laws urged fans to stop buying if they wanted to save her from what they fear could be a slide into drink and drugs. So will attention be focused on her music or her lifestyle? Stephanie West has this report.
With 12 artists vying for just one prize, British Album of the Year, this is an industry favourite. There are two young British chanteurs tipped as frontrunners tonight, Natasha of Bat for Lashes, but the other is Amy Winehouse, and such is the appeal of this prize, she's been lured back from her St Lucia hideaway to play the ceremony, which according to the host of the night, is just the way it should be.
The important thing about Amy Winehouse is that she really has one of the most amazing voices since like someone like Diana Washington or something like that. She is the real thing. The people who are really good like that, you only really get, you know, one every decade or something, and she's one of them. So that's what we should be focusing on.
While she may have both talent and the best-selling female album of last year, it's pictures like these that led her parents-in-law to urge fans to boycott her records, to force her label to intervene in a life that appears out of control. But at the nationwide Mercury Prize, the general feeling is she must only be judged on her music. As everybody gets ready for tonight's show, Amy Winehouse is expected to turn up and to perform. And the judges are adamant that whatever's been going on in her private life won't be taken into consideration tonight.
It's about the music. I mean, as far as we're concerned, a lot of artists went to a lot of trouble to put out music, and we've been listening to it. And what else they do is not really our business. The business is the record.
The debate on whose job it is to save talent from self-destruction is something Keith Altham has strong views on. He interviewed Jimi Hendrix just days before he died and was the publicist for the ill-fated Who drummer Keith Moon. He says ultimately labels have little control.
There is a kind of like pattern to the progression, and I think Amy is in one of those downward slides. And I really hope it doesn't happen. I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine in the music business just a couple of weeks ago, and we were both saying, oh no, not again. You know, let's hope this isn't going to be another one. Do you think we should write to her? What's the point? But then they aren't going to listen, really, to people like me. What they should do, what Amy Winehouse should do, is maybe go and talk to a survivor. She should go and talk to someone like Keith Richards or somebody she admires and find out how to survive this.
She is expected to perform in front of her contemporaries tonight, and she will find a lot of sympathy in the room.
I feel really bad for her, yeah. I know it's taken a lot of attention, which I think is wrong.
And in the meantime, her fans have spoken. Ignoring any calls to boycott her music, the album Back to Black has gone back to number 2 in the charts.
Stephanie West reporting. We're joined now by Sarah Graham, a former addict who has worked in the music industry. She's now an addiction therapist, trained at the Priory Clinic and works for the drugs charity In-volve and the government's drug campaign Talk to Frank. What is it about the music industry that somehow lands so many people with a dependency?
I think a lot of people, a lot of creative people have addiction issues, and a lot of people who are interested in a party lifestyle are also attracted to the music business. Not everybody though. I think we see the headlines and you can get the impression that everybody involved in the music business is taking loads of cocaine and drinking loads. There are obviously a lot of people who do that, but it's not everyone. And the sad thing with somebody like Amy is that she's getting a lot of headlines, but you know, there's a really stark reality behind those headlines. She's got an illness which is a progressive illness that kills many of the people who have it.
But there is something odd, isn't there, in that it's almost as if there's something deadly attractive about what's happening to her physically, which is also drawing young people in.
Absolutely, the media love it. Of course, you know, you get a lot of headlines, you get a lot of dramatic pictures out of somebody like Amy. Pete Doherty, of course, we've all seen loads and loads of pictures of him too. And that's one of the problems. You know, it is very dramatic. The record company do profit from these kind of images. It gets people in the papers. But behind all of those images, you've got Amy and Blake's family, you know, who are really suffering at the moment, you know, desperate for their children to get into recovery. And of course, they know there's nothing they can do. Amy and Blake have to want to seek treatment.
Does the music industry ever want anyone to seek treatment?
I think that It's a difficult one because a lot of the music business has a very short-term attitude, and of course an artist like Amy, she could have a really long career. She's very talented, she's breaking in America, she's doing really great things. You know, if she dies, of course her 2 albums will sell really well, and that's an irony, but at the same time, if she lives, she could go on to produce lots more albums which could be fantastic.
But the Prime Minister this morning was talking about pornography and violence on television, but then talked too about young people seeing what's happening and yet also drawn to the music that it produces.
I think one of the problems we've got at the moment is this kind of addictive behaviour, this severe addictive behaviour is being very normalised by the media, by these images. You know, things like self-harming. We are seeing an increase in self-harming with young people. Crack and heroin addiction. Whilst it is a minority of young people who are taking crack and heroin, you know, this polydrug use can progress very quickly. You know, some of the clients I see, I run a stimulant service, which is a rare thing in this country, and some of the clients I see are very young, and they've got very serious addictions. And that isn't really being taken seriously. You know, we hear a lot of talk about money being put into rehab and stuff, but there are people on waiting lists at the service I work at and across the country, and lots of young people who need treatment aren't getting the help that they deserve.
Sarah Graham. Now,